Mike Bender here, our friend from Chaucer's. He's a #1 New York Times bestselling author of Awkward Family Photos. If you haven't seen that, check it out online. He has written the Junior Library Guild Selection, The Book About Nothing, and The End is Just the Beginning, which is inspired by his own healing from Lyme disease. He lives in Santa Barbara with his family and is on his way to becoming an old fart. We are so pleased to bring Mike back for what I've been announcing as a very somber book called The Most Serious Fart. This book, as I jokingly told Mike, is the #1 seller in terms of Harry's customers. They would see that, have a few drinks, and want to go ahead and buy this book. Can you imagine that? But it was also a pick by somebody slightly more famous than me, Michael, the events coordinator, a guy by the name of Ryan Reynolds. You might have heard. He's an actor and he owns that soccer club Wrexham. But he read this book online in his pajamas, and it became a national sensation. So much that we couldn't get the number of books that we wanted because everybody wants this book. So without further ado, to read this book, and The End is Just the Beginning, please welcome Mike Bender.
Thank you, first of all. This is an amazing showing here, and I'm so excited. I've been reading the book to different schools around Santa Barbara, and I see a lot of faces here, and that makes me really happy. So, for those who haven't heard the book yet, I want to just say that I want to find out, first of all, how many people here like silly books. I'd like to get a show of hands of how many people like silly books. Okay, well, today I'm reading a very serious book. I'm sorry to.
It's called The Most Serious Fart.
You know that. All right.
I find it serious.
The book is called The Most Serious Fart. Okay, and it's very serious.
It's funny. The name is very funny.
In a not-so-quiet neighborhood, deep in the bowels, lived a most serious fart with monogrammed towels. His name was Siegfried, never a smile on his face. He only listened to Beethoven and always carried a briefcase. Most farts lived in clusters, but Siegfried lived all alone. He didn't have any friends, nobody to share a scone. He thought he had no choice but to live life this way. Other farts were just fools who delighted in disarray. Siegfried had held in his gripe long enough. It was time to make a stink. Farts should be taken seriously, like a sneeze or a blink. Thanks to his fellow farts, nothing really mattered. Mocked by even babies, their reputation was shattered. The Board of Old Farts held a meeting once a year where farts of all smells wafted in through the rear. It was a chance to be heard, to truly speak their mind. But most came for the after party and to shake their behinds. Siegfried had come for a debate. Taking a pad and pointer from his case, he prepared 4 arguments to push the fart to its proper place. First, a fart should no longer depart from the depths of the derriere, but rather a more elevated spot, like the mouth, the eyes, or even nose hair. Second, the telltale tooting sound was a dreaded cacophony. It needed a more dignified tune, like Beethoven's 5th Symphony. Third, the stinky smell of rotten eggs must be rethought and replaced. Siegfried preferred more refreshing scents, lemongrass and minty fresh toothpaste. Lastly, Siegfried asked the board to reconsider the fart's very own name. A 4-letter word like butt and poop brought them nothing but shame. So he offered a new title and that suggested nobility. And dropping a bomb, he presented the Farfoofity.
What? The Farfoofity?
The Farfoofity. Finishing his long-winded plea with nothing left to say, Siegfried was feeling confident he had blown the old farts away. The board quibbled and squabbled, but ended in a stalemate. They decided to let the town's farts decide the fart's fate. To the mic, each fart floated, blasting ideas Siegfried promoted. I'm proud of my tooting vibrations. They've been in my family for generations. I don't care if babies laugh at me. Their little giggles fill me with glee. I don't want to be a fart-proof. Oh, for fart's sake, I can't even say it. Hooray for the booty! Hooray for the booty! Hooray for the booty! Siegfried turned his back while everyone joined the chant, until the eldest fart hit the gavel and ripped into a rousing rant. Well, Siegfried, your fellow farts have spoken clearly about the opinions which you've held so dearly. You should be proud of who you are, not who you think you should be. One day we will all run out of gas, so don't take yourself so seriously. As Siegfried considered his fellow farts, he began to rethink his position. Maybe the other farts weren't such fools. Perhaps they cared about tradition. So Siegfried formally withdrew his debate, a cause for everyone in the room to celebrate. Siegfried even agreed to attend the Fartstival that night, to make sure everyone knew he'd butt out of this fight. Although he didn't throw a jig or join the electric slide, he saw one thing they took seriously, flexing their fun side. Siegfried still listened to Beethoven and enjoyed tea and scones, but he did so with plenty of friends and with grins instead of groans. The rear end. I want to just say, how many people had heard that book for the first time? How many guys?
Oh, wait, no.
Okay, because I know some people have heard. Okay. So, for those who heard it for the first time, can you tell me a little bit? Can you tell me what Siegfried learns in this book?
Oh. Red.
Absolutely. He learns that being lonely is not so much fun, right?
When you don't have red.
When you don't have friends. And if you're angry at everybody all the time, it's going to be hard to make friends. In the back. And tell me your name, too.
Sage.
Can you say it one more time?
Sage.
Sage, maybe?
Sage.
Sage?
Okay. Sage, go ahead. Tell me what you think. Excuse me, Sage. Go ahead.
Tradition.
Tradition, yeah. He learned that this is part of what being a fart is, and to be proud of who he is, right? Because he wanted to change everything about what farts were, but maybe what they were doing was okay. So I will tell you that I wrote this book because I started to feel like some people were taking themselves too seriously. And I think that it's so important, and all you guys that are sitting right here are really good at being silly. I know that. And so I want you to remember that it's important to be silly, and to remember as you grow older, don't stop. Because being silly is a really good thing. It's a really healthy thing. It's an important thing. Yes, thank you. So does anyone have any questions? And it could be questions about the illustrator too. My illustrator, unfortunately, is not here. His name is Chuck Dillon. He is an amazing, 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 amazing illustrator. If anybody has read Highlights magazine at any point and done a hidden picture puzzle, Chuck is like the guy. Chuck has been doing it for 30 years. And so, Kai, that's my son. So Chuck has been doing it for 30 years. And when he was illustrating the book, unbeknownst to me, he told me, by the way, as I've been illustrating the pages in the book, I've been hiding butts on all the pages. And I said, yes. And I was like, excuse me? And he said, no, I've been hiding butts on all the pages. So there are 300 hidden butts in this book. And Chuck can't help himself but to hide things. So they're very well hidden. And for anyone who gets the book, I challenge you to find all 300. Now, if you go to mostseriousfart.com, then there's this really cool thing where you can slide this thing over the page and it will reveal all the hidden butts, excuse me. So that's a fun way to see if you found them all. Are there any questions? Yes. And tell us your name, even though I know your name.
How?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, and I went to Vieja Valley.
Yes.
And this was really fun.
This book was funny. I am so glad you thought so. Yes.
I went to Vieja Valley and you read this book to me in my classmates.
I read it to you too, right?
Oh, there you are.
That's what she just
Oh, okay. I thought so. All right. So I have another book that I'd like to read to you guys. Can I read it to you? I figured it was appropriate. It's not about farts, but I figured it was appropriate because we are nearing the end of the year, right?
Oh, I know that one.
And
Did I have it on my house?
so this is a book that I wrote,
Oh,
my
I
last
know
book.
it. I
You know
know
this
it.
book?
I
And
know
this book
it.
is called, you say it with me, The End is Just the Beginning. Okay. So I'm going to read this one to you guys. Okay, it starts with the end. Thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you for listening. It's on the eye.
very short book.
It does start with the end. The end. That's right. You read it correctly. You've reached the end and the beginning. Wait, how can a book possibly start with the end? That's ridiculous. Well, prepare to have your mind blown because the end isn't really the end. It's just the beginning of something else. Like this beautiful sunset. Sure seems like the end of the day, right? Not so fast. You see, when the sun goes down, it is actually just the beginning of the...
Night.
When all the snow melts at the end of the winter, that just means it's the beginning of... Spring! If you try to go to the ends of the earth, you'll actually just keep going back to the beginning because the earth is just one big...
Circle.
If you blast off in a rocket ship, you'll reach the end of the sky, otherwise known as the beginning of outer...
Space.
When you count, the end of one number is just the beginning of the next, and so on and so on and so on and so on, all the way to infinity, which, by the way, never ends. Even a sign that literally says dead end isn't an end at all. It's only just the beginning of whatever lies beyond it. So, when you really think about it, the end is entirely endless. The end of a disagreement with someone is just the beginning of making up. Nice. The end of a mistake is just the beginning of learning something new. The end of being sick is just the beginning of feeling
Better.
yeah. The end of dinner is just the beginning of
Dessert.
and if you're really well behaved, the end of dessert might just be the beginning of
More
dessert. So tonight, when you turn off the lights and you go to bed, don't think of it as the end of anything. Just think of it as the beginning of a new tomorrow full of possibilities. The beginning
Good night.
of discovering the next book.
Good night. Bye-bye.
The beginning. Thank you. So, are there questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So, the boy was Kai and the girl was Sully.
Now,
My mom told me that.
I know it looks like them, but that was actually pretty. The illustrator for this book was a woman named Diana Mayo, who lives in England, and she illustrated. She made these characters, and it just so happened that it looked like my son. Kai, will you stand up so everybody can see your face next to the boy in the book?
I know him.
It was a complete coincidence that Kai ended up looking like the little boy in the book. So, okay, so now I know some of you. Yes, Eve.
Where were you when you wrote that book?
Where was I? I was living in Los Angeles at that time, and I was thinking a lot about ends, and I was thinking about, is there really truly an end to anything? And that's what started to make me think about it. I also am a huge fan of Winnie the Pooh, How many people have seen Winnie the Pooh or read Winnie the Pooh? So, yeah, so there's a lot of that in Winnie the Pooh too, you know, like the idea that everything is just a new beginning. So when you guys think about your own lives, and you think about things that you think are the ends, just now you can remind yourself there really isn't such a thing. It's always just a transformation to a beginning, and a beginning leads to an end, and an end to a beginning, and back and forth. So, I know that a lot of people showed up because I had promised some presents. And I want to try something ambitious, which is we're going to give these out. So I have whoopee cushions for everybody that's here. And I thought it could be pretty magical if we all blow up our whoopee cushions.
No.
And at the same time, we sit on our whoopee cushions. This could be like a Guinness Book World Record for whoopee cushion.
Then you should put it in your book. Fart book.
And then after we do the whoopee cushions, we'll hand out. Then I can sign books and do all that. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
I figure while everyone's sitting. So Kai and Zoe.